The Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com.
You know what the greatest thing is about the exchange with Scott Spears? Well, not only do they have Scott Spears, but they got all kinds of fabulous guests, too. So tune in. The exchange. Scott Spears. Right here. Hello there, Soup here. Say, if you want to be really entertained, just tune in to The Exchange, starring my good friend Scott Spears, here on this station.
Hey, Scott Spears along with you on a Friday edition of The Exchange, having fun this week with Charlie Evers, Brenda Donegan, Martha Douse-Manesi, and our very special guest. We thank her so much for spending the time this week with us. 40th Treasurer of the United States of America, Mary Ellen Withrow. You can't beat that at all. Night of a Thousand Stars coming up here in Marion, 14th annual, coming up December the 8th, 6:30 p.m., Unkefer Street Union Hall, located at 675 Unkefer Avenue here in Marion. All proceeds from this event will go to create a scholarship for a Marion County senior who will be attending college in the fall of 2012, majoring in broadcasting and/or journalism. That night, we will have the Martha Douse dancers performing, the Dance Factory dancers, the Rainbow Singers. Possum will do the Marion song. Fran Vall will receive the Friend of the Community Award. We will create our legends that night, who will be Martha Douse-Manesi, and Joe Ione, Charlie and I's a good pal, will be there. We will have a celebrity auction featuring items from Phyllis Diller, which I'm going to show now. We showed it earlier on in the week. That is Simone, painted by Phyllis Diller, legendary Ohio, by the way, comedian from Lima, Ohio. This is Simone, and there is the certificate of authenticity on the back, and she's also autographed the back of the picture. This will be up for auction on that night, December the 8th, over on Unkefer Avenue. For tickets, please call 740-262-3203, $5 per person. Again, that number, 262-3203. Ask for Sean. Get your tickets now. Charlie, fascinating facts.
I'm still wondering who Simone is. Maybe that's going to be the big mystery.
This lady.
Yeah, I know it's that lady.
There she is.
But where's she from? What's she famous for? Why did Phyllis choose her? But anyhow, right now,
You're full of questions.
this time of the year, the birds are out there. There's so many birds. The juncos have come back now. Not all of them, but a lot of the slate-colored juncos have come down from Canada to pay us a visit. They're the only ones that come from Canada that do not need a passport or any identification. They just show up. Slate-colored juncos.
Slate-colored junco.
Yes.
What does a slate-colored junco look like?
It has a black bib, and the rest of it's white underneath, and most of it is kind of grayish in color.
Are they small?
Yeah, they're not too big. A little bit larger than a sparrow, perhaps. They feed off the ground. You won't find them up in your bird feeder, probably, but they'll be taking the leftovers. And I was trying to think if there are any other birds that come down this time. Robins will be leaving, some of them, but then you have the Canadian robins. They'll also come down to enjoy our weather here, which is a little better than upper parts of Canada.
A Canadian robin.
A Canadian robin.
Now,
yeah.
Is that a bird or a person?
No, that's
from
a criminal.
Canada named Robin?
That's a criminal in Montreal.
A criminal. There you go. Listen, when a bird flies over next, I'm gonna say, hey, there's a slate-colored junco.
Right.
They'll just think I'm
They'll think
brilliant.
you're smart or something.
I know, slate-colored junco, the things you learn here on this program. Yesterday, I kind of teased this story. This is as local as it gets here in Pleasant Township, and if you've been reading the Marion Star or keeping up with the local politics, this was one for you. And let me give you the rundown on this and try to follow, because it gets a little complicated. John Peacock is a current Pleasant Township trustee. In attempting to run for re-election, John put the wrong date on his petition to run and was disqualified to run by the Marion County Board of Elections as a candidate or a write-in candidate. At that point, Ruth Ann Peacock, John's wife, decided to run as a write-in candidate. John wrote a letter to the Marion Star dated September the 8th that spelled out Ruth Ann's intentions as a write-in candidate in the November election, which states that if Ruth Ann were to win, she would be sworn in and resign her position immediately to her husband. Ruth Ann did win a majority of votes on November the 8th. I spoke with John Peacock this morning, and he told me that Ruth Ann fully plans to resign as soon as she is sworn in January, and that he feels confident that the remaining Pleasant trustees will appoint him trustee in her vacated place. There you go. Made some people very angry. Marion Star got a few editorials that were certainly not excited about that. John Peacock's granddaughter wrote in defense of his grandparents. It got so disturbing at one point. Charlie, what do you make of that?
I don't know. It sounds like a family feud, or could be. And it's just a little unusual, but legally, I guess it's all right. But then you have personalities that come into it that can cause all kinds of rough water.
Do people in Pleasant have a right to be angry?
I don't know.
I think it's an interesting story. It fascinates me that this would go on. What do you think, Brenda?
I think it's a little beguiling, for one thing, for the other trustees to agree to that. And besides that, can you really trust them that they will appoint her immediately? I've questioned that from the beginning, even though they gave their word. I don't know. I know John and Ruth Ann, and they're both fine people, but to me, that's just a little dishonest. Not the way to go about getting in office.
If he really wanted to get into office, and he put the wrong date, and the Board of Elections disqualified him.
Well, good for them for catching it.
Oh, okay. What should he have done? Should he have just sat this one out?
I would have.
It's interesting. Martha, when you hear this story, what do you think about?
I think it's stupid.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's a little shaky, I think. Mary Ellen, what do you think?
Well, could I ask, who are the other board members? I mean, how is the relationship here with him? Is there everything all right between the board members?
When I spoke with John this morning, just going on what he said, he's been in that position. He's still in that position now until he resigns, or the term is up in January. He obviously has been with them, and I don't know if he went to them and said, if my wife runs, I didn't get that deep into it. But I guess he has a good relationship with them. Obviously, he feels confident, he told me, that if she resigns, that they're going to appoint him.
Well, I don't understand why people are angry then. If it's in agreement with everybody involved, why are people angry? Do you have any idea on that?
I think people are angry. I did read the editorials that people wrote into the Star, and I can't quote them exactly, but this idea that Ruth Ann had no intention to run. She was just a shill for him to get back on the ballot, and that she has no intentions to be a trustee, that she's going to resign as soon as she gets in. I think that angers people a little bit because it says to them, in their opinion, that even if you don't do things right, you can still beat the system. Because he did put the wrong date, admittedly. He put the wrong date. So is that an honorable, I mean, we just talked about honorable and ethics and can people be forgiven for a political figure, trustee, whatever you want to refer to him as, in a county to act?
Well, I'm questioning the person being 70 years old on the school board. I would question that.
Why do you think it would be so important to go to, what I ask myself, why would you go to this measure to do this?
I mean, it is involved, and it would probably make people think that, you know, they were being, having things pulled over on them, which you just don't want, you know, you don't like that to happen. I think people are upset when somebody is elected and they resign right away. I've known people that did that, and it never makes very many friends for you in politics when you do that.
What do you think of what I would think would have to be a backdoor dealing? Because obviously Ruth Ann, I don't think, wanted to be a trustee. Wouldn't John have had to have gone to the other trustees and said at some point, theoretically, if this happened, would you appoint me? Because just the fact that she resigns doesn't mean he gets the position. The trustees can appoint anybody they want to. Didn't some deal had to have been made even before they went into the election?
It sounds like it.
And how does that leave this coming off? How does it come off?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good. Yeah.
Well, should people be angry, Brenda? Because some are.
I would say yes, because there was an underhanded way to do that. He should have sat out 2 years or however many years the trustees serve, and then run again to be reelected. But no, I think they have a right to be upset.
Charlie, what does it say that he, is it okay because he went to the Marion Star and said, look, I'm really the one behind this, you know?
Well, the way I look at it, it was well known that she was going to resign, and he probably had enough conversation with the other trustees that he would be appointed. And the majority of people in Pleasant Township voted for this particular system, or whatever you want to call it. So, I don't know, but the ones that didn't vote in favor of it are the ones probably that are protesting the fact.
Well, it seems very obvious to me that because she did win election and he did state in the Marion Star on September the 8th that this is what was going to happen, that she did win, that they probably are majority-wise at least in favor of him doing this. But I don't like what had to go on between him and the other trustees before this decision had to have been made. Obviously, he's very popular out there, and he seems like a nice enough guy when I spoke to him today. But the fact that she's going to go in and take this oath or whatever she takes out there and then immediately resign it, I just don't know about that. It just seems wrong.
Do you remember how many were on the ballot? Were there 3 or 4?
I think there were 4 or 5, weren't there?
Well, see, the more you have, the more the vote split. So had she been running against one, the vote might have gone another way.
Well, and we should also make mention that Pleasant Township, I mean, it's not thousands of votes that people vote for this. It's hundreds. I mean, a write-in candidate can win in an election like this. I don't know. I think it was a little shaky. But, hey, you know what? They've said what they're going to do. I guess the end result is, will he just get away with what he did and everything will go along kosher?
I guess we'll find out how true his friends were to him then. That they'll keep their word that with the deal that they worked out. We'll find that out come January 2nd or whenever they're sworn in.
Do you think there was a deal? Let me put it that way. Do you think there was a deal? Because he told me, his exact word, and it rings in my ear, was he had great confidence that they would do this. He didn't say for sure, and he didn't say there was a deal. Do you think there was a deal?
Sounds like it.
Mary Ellen, does it sound like a deal?
Well, yes, it does. Yeah.
Charlie, deal?
Sure. It's the only way they would have did what they did.
Martha?
Sounds like a deal to me.
I don't know. That's the way the political ball rolls.
Wonder how much a Pleasant trustee makes. And will she be able to draw any money for the number of days before she resigns? Once she takes office?
She was a teacher, by the way. I don't know. It seems a little, I don't know, little strange, and I think it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. Here's a little strange story as we wrap out the week here. Greyhound passengers on a St. Louis-bound bus from Memphis spent a night sitting at a truck stop in Charleston, Missouri on Saturday after their driver, irate after an exchange with one of the passengers, parked the vehicle and disappeared. Passengers told KSDK that the driver had an altercation with a 65-year-old man who she felt was being rowdy and told him to get out. When the man refused, she herself exited near Cape Girardeau, locking the door behind her. The passengers called 911 and police told her to get back on board and proceed to St. Louis. The driver apparently resumed driving but headed to Charleston instead of St. Louis. She once again parked the bus. This time she simply left. The passengers called Greyhound, but it took hours for a new driver to arrive. Though Greyhound apologized to the passengers and promised to refund their tickets, the bus line couldn't offer to return the 12 extra hours the trip took. I think it's safe to say the protocol was not followed, Greyhound spokesman Maureen Richmond told the Memphis Commercial Appeal. The bus line said it would punish the veteran driver whose name was not released. Apparently she's still employed by the company. You can just leave the bus in the middle of nowhere, take a hike, and you're still there.
It kind of reminds me of when I escorted the 7th graders at River Valley to Washington, and we saw Mary Ellen Withrow. In fact, the kids are really tickled to death. We were in the building where she works, and she spotted me and climbed down over the railing and met with the kids, and they were really thrilled. Well, anyhow, on that trip, we had a flat tire on our bus. And so there we sat along the road, but another one of the buses heard about our flat tire, and it was also on the tour, and he backed up to us and left the motor running and gassed us with diesel smoke. I still can't understand why they did that. That was a nightmarish trip, believe me.
Those bus trips never are all that fun.
Yes. We got to Washington, and the hotel had not prepared the rooms for the kids, and we sat again for 1 or 2 hours in the bus.
Terrible. Brenda, what do you make of this story?
Of
The Greyhound bus driver
Greyhound bus driver.
who said, I'm just leaving. I'm leaving town.
Well, she could have left somebody with some severe medical problems stranded who would need medication. They planned to get them when they got to St. Louis or whatever. You just never know. Did they have food? Were they cold? Did she leave the bus running? They've had some strange weather out there, so, I mean, there's just all kinds of things that you could think of, all kinds of circumstances. I think she should be gone. I think she should have gotten her pink slip.
Mary Ellen, what do you think?
It reminds me of when, were you ever in a restaurant when the waitress got mad and left?
Oh, yes.
Or, you know, I think about that steward that left the plane when he didn't like what was going on.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed to leave your job until it's decent, you know.
Well, you know, this beckons the question, though. Do the passengers or do the patrons, whatever your job is, do they have to abide by any code of decorum? Or can they just be as rude as they want to be, and because you're being paid, you have to lump it?
Well, it doesn't show much responsibility when somebody does something like that, so, yeah. They'll have a little trouble getting another job, I think.
If I were the bus driver and I had a passenger that was rude and disruptive, I probably would have stopped the bus and called law enforcement and asked them to remove them. I know years ago I was asked to drive a Elgin school bus